Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities and Miniatures. Let's cut to the chase. I like barbarian models. The wilder, more feral, and crazy looking, the better. And I need to talk to you guys today about some of Titan Forge's latest offerings. So Titan Forge has been a company that's really kind of made a nice, solid name for themselves in the 3D printable tabletop genre. But I mean, prior to that, we're actually releasing some really neat, interesting, very distinct models in resin of various armies, and they seem to have kind of gone back to their roots, at least since GW has put out the Old World, and they've kind of concentrated more on like actual, filling out armies rather than just coming up with crazy, funky skirmish stuff and RPG encounters and scenarios, but they still do that as well. And they had some recent barbarians that I just had to print out and show you guys, because these are some of the craziest looking dudes I have come across in some time. Just so much in the way of spikes and over adornment. Now, I know there can absolutely be argued the case that, there is such thing as too much of a good thing, but I'm not going to argue that case today. There's just so many horns and spikes on these guys. I love it. It's ridiculous. So these are the armored, I want to say they called them like Northern Barbarians or something like that. I can't even remember the name, to be honest, but they came in armored and more marauding type variants. But I wanted to focus first, at least, on the more heavy armor guys. Again, just a ridiculous amount of stuff sticking off of them. Heavy armor all the way around. Lots of fur. And I mean, honestly, these, there's a couple spots I still need to remove supports on. It is a bit shinier than I like. But, I mean, I want to let you people see this is like what you're going to get, off of the print bed prior to any cleanup, really, and painting, or even just a coat of primer. But just ridiculous in terms of the proportions. Now, what's interesting is you'll notice this guy's on a 25mm base and fits quite nicely, whereas I want to say this is possibly the command model, and he's on a 32 and barely fits on there. They are designed to rank up, so if that is something you have in mind, that is absolutely doable. As we were saying, we have the lighter armored, more excuse me, barbarian style. And again, same thing, just lots of bones, lots of horns, lots of sharp, pointy protrusions. It also bears mentioning that these are entirely modular. Now, there isn't as much modularity to them as models in the past necessarily, obviously the heads, and there are a large variety of heads, but then you have the bodies that are designed for either dual-wielding weapons or for the two-handed weapons, whichever is your choice. And again, for a rank-and-file guy, here he is. Naturally, the bases don't match up. But you can also see there's a bit of a discrepancy in size, which leads to the unfortunate disadvantage of these two models not really being compatible with each other. You can't... Whoa! That was fun. Getting too excited here. You can't really mix and match either the heads or the weapons between the two different sets, which is a bit of a bummer because... for the most part, the barbarians are all very full beard, open, helmeted. You can see their faces, whereas for me, I prefer most of my chaos type things to have their faces completely enclosed, of which I'd say the overwhelming majority of the heavy armor guys are. So these are two examples of the two-handed stuff. I actually didn't print any of the one-handed guys. I've got plenty of other Chaos Warrior types with, the swords and shields. I like the two-handed stuff. You could probably use them as chosen if you wanted, rather than just typical Chaos Warriors, but I do like the size of them. However, to be honest, I prefer the barbarian types taking that same body. Now, what was interesting is you do have modular options for the heavy infantry with their two-handed weapons, whereas the barbarian marauder types already have the bodies posed with the weapons. You don't really get a choice there. I'm not even 100% sure if that's the original head. I'm pretty sure it's at least a Titan Forge head. Same body, different setup, different heads, no shoes. Also really liked the standard bear. That is a bear skull he is wearing over his beard. But you can see it's got the skins on the big poles. Something that I've noticed Titan Forge likes to do a lot with their models. And again, I don't think he has shoes. Nope, no shoes. Again, this is with the two-handed body. They have a, I want to say there was a one-handed dual-wielding option for these guys. And I want to say most of the command units, this is the champion, are pre-posed. So you can't decide what kind of a weapon he's going to have in his hand. Did not really want to fit on this 25mm base. He is hanging over a little bit. But again, I really love this. The skulls, the horns, the teeth. They're going to be a lot of fun to paint up. And what's interesting is their unit champion. I'll be honest, when I first saw him, I thought it was a bit of a swipe. And I don't know whose came first because it looked a lot like the champion that Mom Miniatures made. But when you really compare them, other than the fact that they both have their arms out and they're both wielding axes, there are quite a bit of significant differences, both in the design, in the overall setup, the overall pose. He's perched on the Brock here, whereas this guy is just going to be clearly advancing. So there is a bit of a difference. I was happy to see that because I like both these models. And again, this guy was completely pre-posed. I do believe he had these hands as separate pieces originally. The head was not. The head was actually one part of the body. But again, just wild horns, tusks everywhere. Can't complain about that. Also of note lately is that in addition to these really fun barbarian types, of which they've had chaos type mutants, they've had big woolly rhino cavalry, all the usual, you know, big name monster types. They've recently started putting out a really great looking set of orcs that I don't seem to be able to get in focus there. Again, this is just straight off the printer. I haven't done a whole lot of cleanup. It's still kind of shiny, but it really hits that aesthetic of the kind of classic black orc, iron jaws, whatever you want to call them. And these things are big. I'll show you in a sec. Not only are they big, so here is a standard, I guess, GW iron jaws, black orc, whatever you want to call them. I want to say this is originally from Warhammer Underworlds, judging by the pose. But you can see the Titan Forge has got a bit of a bulk to it in comparison. But the crazy thing is they have even larger big orcs. That's a 40mm base he's on. I don't even know what that's comparable to. If I don't remember orcs having big orcs. And in addition to that, they still have the trolls and all the usual fun stuff that goes along with them for heavy hitters. So if this is something you're interested in as well, we've got the same kind of options. We've got the dual wielding, whereas the weapons are not attached on the one-handed. The two-handed, I believe the only options were the heads, but actually that kind of makes things easier for printing if that's something you're interested in. As I was going to say, for a size comparison, I don't have any of my usual Marauders handy, which is a real shame. I do have, however, this Dark Oath Champion. You can see it's a little bit larger, but then like if I've got the Champion as well, things kind of get more evened out. Grabbing a older GW human from when things were rank and file, you can see here that, well, the scales, they line up a bit better in terms of proportions. But then when you get like the Chaos heavy infantry type guys, you could see some serious difference there. If you want a more apt comparison, again, the Titan Forge figures are a little bit larger than the typical GW ones, but then again, this is also a Warhammer Underworlds figure, judging by the base. Yeah. I was going to say it was either that or one of the easy to build type ones from the kind of start collecting set they made of all of the Chaos Warriors, but that's not it. Anyway, so if you're in the market, they've got plenty of that stuff. Nice cohesive armies if that's something you're interested in. If you have them up against more regular sized humans, we're having a Frostgrave guy there, or a Perry miniature. Why? Because why not? They make great adversaries for more regular humans. You can see they're going to have their work cut out for them in that case. Just fun stuff. And if that's not your area of interest, I gotta say I was also quite impressed with their recent sci-fi ones where we got the guy in the jean shorts and tube socks. with a rocket launcher and a perm, because nothing says more 80s than that. Gonna clean up those ammo belts there. Also of interest were their armored dock workers. I know I'm not the only one besides myself and my brother that really like the more industrial, you know, service workers rampaging against the system. I also like the fact that for the most part, if I have all those supports removed, things can actually stand up on their own without a need for a base. My dude's coming into battle with a wrench. Doesn't want to stand up either, but of course they do have some heavy support as well. So yeah, fun stuff as always all around from Titan Forge. If you guys don't know where to find them, obviously we'll have that link below, and hopefully you're going to find some models that are going to be as fun for you as they are for me. So with that said then, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we will see you back here soon. Bye-bye.